Hello and welcome to The Pulse with me, Yvonne Msemembo. Today we'll be looking at the Tanzania's national budget 2025-26. Is it an exclusive budget? Has it met expectations of Tanzanians? We'll find out more as we talk to our panelists today. I have with me today Ali Mkimo, our economist, and I also have with me Thomas Kibwana, our analyst here today. Welcome to The Pulse.
Thank you.
So, the budget 2025-2026. Good news, bad news. I'll start off with you, Ali.
Yes.
Should Tanzanians be happy? Will it meet our expectations?
I would say 50-50. There are some of the things that went well within the budget, most especially when reducing some of the taxes, because when you talk about budget, you speak about what we call as the estimations of the revenue and the expenses. And we have what we call as the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. At the fiscal policy, that is where we tend to look at the revenue, the issue of, I'd say the issue of expenses, how the government does spend in fiscal policy. When you take a look at how does the government tend to spend, how does the government want to spend, how much do they want to spend, and also the issue of taxation. So at the fiscal policy, we tend to look at the expenditures and the taxes. So in various taxes or in various areas, if you want to at least reduce the cost of living, or at least make it better for the citizen, then you have to remove some of the taxes in some of the places. So removing VAT in some of the places, for example, at the agriculture sector, taxing it at the zero rate of 0%, it's good for the economy, it's good for the citizens, because if you do that, then you tend to increase the power of consumption, and you tend to reduce the cost of producing. So what was done, removing some of the taxes, that was good. For example, the VAT, knowing that they are going to be exempted, some of the sectors they have exempted, most especially those sectors that tend to be a part of production, or a part of producing. And the other thing is, they have said that they have removed the issue of shutting down businesses. That was very important, because we've seen various business people that were complaining. Others have taken loan, and others tend to be unemployed because you have shut down their businesses. They're not in a position now to do business. So that was done in a good way. I would say in a budget that was good. And the other thing is the issue of knowing what has to be done by foreigners and what has to be done by the people, I would say, the indigenous, knowing that this is the business has to be done by people that comes within the Tanzanians. They have to do a retail business. For example, then in Kariakoo, we've seen Chinese, they've been doing retail trade. They are not supposed to be doing that. In commerce flowchart, we have home trade and foreign trade. In home trade, we both know that wholesale trade and retail trade has to be done by the citizens. But when you speak about the foreign trade, at least there where you should find those, what we call as the foreigners. And they have to act as investors and not as business people. So they have said that it's going to be well taken care of by mentioning what needs to be done, by knowing what needs to be done in those areas. I would say it's a good budget at that side, making sure that we tend to do business, we tend to own our economy, because an economy that is owned by investors, you cannot be calling that your own economy. You do not own that kind of economy. And the other thing, taxing various areas, because we both know that there is an economic uncertainty in the world right now. The economy is not doing that well. We know that the foreign aid will not be that much. So you need to come up with the right procedures. Though, if you ask me the sources that they have taxed, they are many of those sources, I'd say they tend to repeat the same sources. The new sources.
Beverages, cigarettes, it's always the same sources, yeah.
Yes, so, but I understand why they do that. Because some of the sources, if you tend to find new sources, those sources, they tend to have what we call as the tax avoidance and tax evasion. They tend to repeat the same sources simply because it's simple to tax those sources. For example, when you tax in oil, it's simple to tax because we both know that we need that kind of product. It's a catalyst for production, and also it is used in transporting various goods. So it's easy because we tend to consume one of those what we call as the necessity goods. In the end, you know that you have to consume that. So it's simple to tax. And I've seen people complain about the 10% withholding tax at the what we call as the retained earnings. You know, there was this tendency of various companies. They tend to retain those earnings. They do not provide dividends because they know retained earnings is not taxed. So let's just keep it. We provide dividends after, let's just say, 10 years or 15 years. Let's just enjoy the profit that we have by not providing dividends. But they know for sure that the dividend is taxed. So they introduced the 10% to have an equality, knowing that if now you tend to retain those earnings, not providing dividends, you'll be taxed. And if you provide dividends, also you'll be taxed. They did it for an equality, I understand. But the thing is, we need retained earnings for companies to be able to expand their operation activities. So if you tend to tax those retained earnings, you'd make investors to be hesitant into reinvesting. We need companies to reinvest. And also, I've seen they have started up various, I'd call it as funds, those kinds of funds to be able to combat the HIV/AIDS. Very, very important because we've seen after Donald Trump came into power, and we both know that the US is one of the, I would say, the main stakeholder in various developing countries.
The policy changes have certainly affected how they give the support to countries like Tanzania.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was a need to do that for us to be able to cover for the budget deficit. And as you've said, some of the places that they have taxed, that money is going to that fund. That is going to be fighting or combating the effects of HIV/AIDS. It's very, very important. 7% will be going there, 30% will be going at the health insurance for all. So I would say partly yes, partly no.
Okay.
Some of the things have to be well taken care of.
Okay, so it's 56.49 trillion shillings budget.
Yes.
An increase of about 12-something%, yeah. It's from 50.29 trillion shillings at the previous budget. This figure, is it an ambitious one?
Yes, I would say that, even though they have reduced it.
They reduced from 57.04 trillion shillings, yes.
Yes.
And that had to be done because of, we say, the funding that had to be, you know, that is not going to be available anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, an increase in the budget at times tends to relate with how your economy is doing. Take a look at the East African community, various budgets in these countries that are within those countries that are within the East African community. If you take a look at them, you get to see that a country with a huge economy, they have a very massive budget compared to the other country. The budget might be bigger compared to the other country. I've seen Rwanda; they have a budget. I would say it's a budget that. That budget is only for one sector here in our country, one ministry, you would say. For example, the Ministry of Health has that amount of budget, or you'd say, if you multiply it by 12, you might say that, or let's just say for 3 or 4 years. So it depends on how the economy is doing for you to be able to increase an amount of budget. And let me say one thing, we tend to confuse these things. It's not like that 56.49 trillion Tanzanian shillings is there for grabs, people to be taking it.
I know, we have to raise it.
Absolutely, we have to be going out there
to see how we can collect it.
And tend to spend it. Yeah. So there has to be procedures for you to get that amount. That's why African countries, they tend to face what we call as the budget deficit. They plan, but in the end, things doesn't go to their way. That is where would require an additional budget. We've seen, and I think earlier this year, the members of parliament, they have asked for the budget increase, additional budget. It happens because comes a time when what you have planned to collect doesn't reach the targets for you to be able to get that. And what I like right now, at least we have made it good, or we have made we've taken a huge step at what we call as the non-tax revenue, because we only depend on tax revenue. When you speak about the non-tax revenue, this is where you find loyalties, interest, the dividends. We've seen we've got a very lump sum dividend. I've seen I think it was for the past it was a few weeks ago. I've seen that we have got like more than 1 trillion Tanzanian shillings. That was a very, very good thing for us to have that amount of dividends. If we tend to invest in these public corporations, other corporations have to be public listed for us to be able to increase the amount of capital, for them to be able to reduce operating expenses. I've seen they've reduced the operating expenses at 46%. That is very good. And if we invest a lot into these public corporations and make sure that we tend to get what we need from them, a huge amount of funds for us to be able to cover our very own budget, that will be very, very important, because you cannot be having a budget that depends on the outsiders. You cannot be having a budget that depends on loans and foreign aid. That wouldn't be a budget. That's why I've seen even at the budget, this budget, very, very important for us to know that more than 71% has to come from the inside, the domestic revenue. You have to do that, because if you depend on loans, these kinds of loans, sometimes they come with conditions. And Tanzania has been doing very well economically. You've seen now even the statistics, they show that we've been doing well economically. The economy has been growing at the rate of 5.5% in 2024, at the rate of 5.1% in 2023. So when those lenders, when they come to you, they wouldn't give you consensus loans. They will say you are doing well economically. We are going to be giving you commercial loans. Now you'll be in a position that wouldn't be that good, because we both know that the commercial loans, they have a huge rate of interest. Yes.
Okay, so we got this picture, the economic picture about this budget. For a layman, okay, I'll come to Thomas. Yeah, for you, what does this mean? The budget mean to us? For the simple Tanzanian there, should they be happy, or are we going to sort of like seeing more hardships?
Well, I'll begin
are we going to see food on the table? Are we going to be able to purchase the things that we want to do, build our houses? For you, what does this budget mean?
Well, I'll start off by saying that there's no budget which pleases everybody, especially for a still developing country like ours. There's a lot of priorities, but there's not much money to go around. So eventually, the budget will please some people, it will disappoint some people. But what I liked about this budget is that in general, it shows that we aim to increase industry capacity in our own country and promote our own industries. For example, the taxing of construction materials and cement, which are imported. They are now being taxed, which means that construction material and cement produced in Tanzania will be cheaper. So we're promoting our own industry. They reduce tax holidays for foreign investment from 10 years to 3 years. So it used to be, we complain a lot that a company will come into Tanzania, have a tax holiday for 10 years. After about 10 years, they change the name and dissolve the business, etc. But now instead of 10 years, it will be 3 years. The education budget has been increased now. It's $7 billion. Speaking of Rwanda's budget is $4 billion. So our education budget is bigger than the whole of Rwanda's national budget. So there are things which are promising, but the things we need to look at now is now how do we increase the voter base. I was just looking at numbers, and then I noticed that in Tanzania, the formal sector is just about 28% of the population, but the informal sector is 72% of the population. So even when we're recording GDP and things like that, the numbers that are actually looked at is the formal sector, because you can account for the formal sector because it's recorded, but for the informal sector, it's not recorded. So now, how do we increase our informal sector? How do we increase it from 28% to, let's say, 50%? So now we're looking at the budget said that they're looking on how to formalize digital and tech industry in Tanzania, which is a growing industry, especially for the youth. So the more we increase the formal sector, the more we can increase our tax base, because we see every day we complain that employees with payee, we're the ones who are getting burdened by the taxes. So if we increase that base, it means that taxes will increase and the burden will ultimately decrease. But also looking at other things like registered TIN numbers. We have 7 million registered TIN numbers, but only 2.5 million are active. So why is less than 30% active? So those are the things we should look at. It's complicated, as Ali said. Sometimes the government looks for sources which are easier to monitor and easier to tax. So how do we improve our infrastructure to be able to increase the tax base? Right now, what's going on, for example, I've seen a report a few days ago where it's saying that the government is digitalizing tax collection at the local government level, what we call halmashauri, and they're training local government employees in using different devices in order to collect different collections. So digitalizing our way of operating things will also make it easier for us to tax in areas we previously thought it's difficult to tax, which will also decrease the loopholes in tax avoidance.
Why do you think that for many Tanzanians, they find it so difficult to pay tax? You said that there's a problem of we have a big informal sector, and that's where it can be utilized to make sure that they pay taxes. But what is it can be done to make sure that they understand the importance of paying taxes? Are the taxes that are being charged, do you think that too big for them to be able to pay, or what should be done to make sure that they see this need to pay those taxes?
I think the government especially has to do a better job in illustrating to people where their money is going and how that benefits them. People like to see things they can touch. So how do those things benefit you, and how do you quantify it in terms of money? For example, when it was the 2020 elections, I read that Dar es Salaam alone was losing billions just because of traffic. So the fact that people are getting to work late and coming home late, it reduces the productivity.
Absolutely.
And hence the economy gets affected, right? So if right now the government can articulate to citizens that look at all the constructions that are going on in Dar es Salaam, once this construction is completed, Dar es Salaam will be a 24-hour city that you can do business in the morning until night, that the time for traveling to go to and from work will be reduced. And this, by the way, will lead to an increase of this percentage in the economy. Those are things that people can compute. You understand? Eh? The Bwawa la Mwalimu Nyerere, the JNHPP hydropower project, once it's completed 100%, and then we reduce electricity rationing, quantify it to people that now that electricity is more available, our economy is going to increase by this much. Your business, which you're suffering because of electricity shortage, now won't be affected, and now this amount of money will be coming into you. So when the government can quantify that to people, the people now will understand that, okay, the money that we're paying is going to ABC projects, and these ABC projects will lead to 1, 2, 3 improvements in our lives. Last example I'll give, just in 2 days, President Samia will be inaugurating the Kigongo-Busisi Bridge. So the Kigongo-Busisi Bridge is about 3.2 kilometers. It's the longest bridge in East Africa, and by the 6th longest bridge in Africa. That's not a small feat. Absolutely. But more important than that, it's a commune time that has been reduced from several couple of hours to a mere, I think, is it 1 hour right now? I'm not sure, it's about 1 hour, from about a couple of hours from traveling. And even just a few days ago, Minister Ulega, the Minister of Infrastructure, he said before infrastructure improvements were made, somebody traveling from Mwanza to Bukoba would have to pass through Uganda and Kenya
Imagine.
to go to Bukoba, two different countries.
Imagine.
Now, that's not the case. Now you are traveling within your own countries in a few hours. These are things that people might not understand, but when you quantify and explain this to people, now they're saying, okay, this is where the tax money is going. But secondly, and also as important, is that every year we get the CAG report, which shows a certain level of misuse of funds. So the government now should do its best to take actions against those institutions and those individuals who are responsible for the loss of fundings in different ways. So if, let's say, people are taken to court for embezzlement, or if certain administrative actions are taken, the government should announce it, that the CAG report said Ali Mkomwe and his institution, they lost 6 billion Tanzanian shillings because of ABC. This is the actions we took against Ali, whether administrative or legally. So that gives people hope and inspires people to say that, okay, even if there's lots of funds happening, government is taking action. Now, actions are being taken, but the actions that are being taken are not as well publicized as the CAG report itself. So that's something that the government can improve on to increase awareness of paying taxes and increase citizen morale in paying taxes.
Accountability.
Accountability.
Yeah. I'd like to hear about what you got to say about the small-scale transporters, our borders as well. We've seen it's good news for them. But then, of course, that the government is going to be funding the budget, the elections this year with its own fund, with their own budget. We're not going to be depending on foreign aid this time. So that's good news. We'll talk more about that when we come back. But right now, let's move over to one of our journalists from The Guardian who has this to say about the budget.
One of the impressions that I've seen is that the country is preparing to reduce its dependence from donors. So it is the duty of the government now to find out on how it can find the ways of generating more revenue from domestic economic activities. As far as finance the election that will be held in October this year. It must be done because development projects are the things that are going to stimulate the economy. And we have seen that there is also a challenge of global geopolitics that I think is going to reduce a number of development assistance from donors. And probably the government need to find the ways on how they can fill that gap to find an alternative way of generating funds. So I think domestic revenue, Tanzania revenue authorities also need to review some of the tax regime, because we have seen there will be an increase of import duties for the goods that will be imported in order to protect the local industries, and we see the TRA. Domestic revenue is one of the key area that TRA is collecting revenues. So protecting local manufacturers and service producers, I think, will also help to stimulate the generation of revenue. What I see is that that is an ambitious goal, because previously we used to depend on foreign donors to finance our election. And this year, I think the government has taken a greater initiative to ensure that we secure our own funds to finance the elections. And one of the things that I would look at is on how we are going to secure the material for elections. If they will be secured locally, I think that money, it is around 1 trillion. That money is going to be dispersed within the economy. But if we are going to import ballot papers, ballot boxes from outside the country, to be around 400 million US dollar, that is a lot of money.
Welcome back to The Pulse. We were listening to, watching Nakumbani, who is a business editor from The Guardian. So right now, I'd like to move over to our participants today. You'll introduce yourselves and give us your views. When we look at this budget, what are your feelings? Are you happy with it? What are your concerns? So this is an opportunity for you all to speak about this budget.
So my name is Francis, and I'm Francis Ibrahim, and I'm a researcher at University of Dar es Salaam in Strategy and Peace Studies. So people, we're in. I'm going to give my contribution on the budget analysis. We have been caught up in a wind of many topics. It's an election year. It's a hot year. There has been a focus on debt payment, the 14 trillion that goes to debt servicing, but what was lost in the midst of all this is that we've begun officially the Vision 2050. And the Vision 2050 is a new set of rules this time from Vision 2025, and it focuses on self-reliance, and for all the right reasons. Why they want this budget to be resilient. Alim Kimo was so clear. He said that this is just a budget. It's like how you are going to plan in your head. I'm going to use 40 million for a wedding. Do you have it? So we don't have that money right now, and we are supposed to be able to collect this money and raise it at a time where the global sphere is not looking very good right now. A sudden change in oil prices could really mess up the whole budget, and it could start from something as easy as Iran and Israel right now. So when it comes to locally improving the tax base, as our former contributors have been saying, we need to look internally. And once you want to have a tax base that covers even the lowest earners, those lowest earners have to come to task actually to start paying taxes. And you asked a very good question, how we are going to reach out to them. I think the government of Tanzania has to work more hard to make people bankable. People should have a mobile money account or a bank account, because there is a huge chunk of money that doesn't even reach the circulation because it's in hands.
But I think we're seeing that with the Vicobas, they're coming up.
Yeah, we're coming good
we're
right now.
moving in that right direction.
We are getting better, especially with mobile money, investments and everything and all that. So there is a lot in forms of resilience. This country was founded on resilience, on self-reliance. And right now the world has been a good reminder of why you need to be self-reliant. When Donald Trump cuts in the PEPFAR funds for AIDS, and then you see ministries scramble to see what to do, they get a good reality check, and it's a good reminder that this is a task we have ahead. There are two key projects that are going to really take a huge chunk from this time's budget, and one of them is AFCON. I'm always wary of over-investing in sports projects, because we have seen countries that host Olympics and then their economies tatter later because they build a lot of huge infrastructures, then they didn't come to task. I'm a little bit optimistic because Tanzanian people are still good football people at culture. Maybe they could utilize it in the clubs and something like that. And hopefully so it makes sense, because the AFCON investments are not small. There's a stadium being built in Arusha, renovations here in Mkapa, Zanzibar, you name it. And it's very costly. We hope that it's going to make sense out of it. And the elections are going to cost 600 billion shillings. We really hope we have a good, free and fair elections, because this is also tax, and we need it to be successful and to be done actually in October. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and we hope that the money that's going to go into the elections is not going to be taken from the other, sectors and moved to to implement the elections, so that it doesn't impact the sectors. We hope.
Hopefully so,
because
yeah.
We've seen here and there that money's always been taken here and moved to here and moved here, and
Yeah.
So we hope that this doesn't happen. Yeah.
My name is Cynthia Albatswai. I
Yeah.
am from the Dr. Salim Ahmed Salim Center for Foreign Relations, pursuing the Bachelor of Arts in International Relations and Diplomacy. And I would personally like to congratulate the government, because if you took a close look on the budget 2023-2024, no, 2024-2025, you could see that our income was on 79%. But then if you took a closer look on the 2025-2026 budget, you'll see we have raised to 91%. So that is a very big step we've come so far. My concerns today on the current budget is on infrastructures, health insurance, and environment. To
Why?
start with the infrastructure,
Yeah.
well, we've seen on the past budget, we've seen that they were trying to build and repair infrastructures, of which it was a very good thing, and they've come so far. But if you take a closer look on important areas, like example Masaki, Kariako, like those potential areas, you could see the roads still have potholes which can cause accidents. You can see there are some places that has like, they have roads, but then the roads are like half, yes, of which that causes a lot of troubles. They've also, on the past budget, they've also talked about building a bridge at Jangwani, but until now we're seeing there are still problems there. There are floods, and that causes a lot of problem when it comes to transportation. So we hope for the current budget that they were like still talking about improving the infrastructures. We are hoping they are going to do it, because transportation is everything when it comes to economic activities. When it comes to health insurances, the last budget they were discussing about putting health insurances in the current budget, of which the current budget they have increased the amount. It means that they want to, yes. So I do not understand, because if you look, health insurance needs to support the low-income people, not the high-income people. But then in the health insurance, we have classes. We have the high insurances and low insurances, of which we're suppressing the low-income people. Because at the end of the time, the high-income people, they get paid high salaries, and when they go to the hospitals, they get the priorities. But when it comes to the low-income people, they do not. And what frustrates me the most is that the low-income people, they get insurance so that they can cover their medical bills anytime maybe they feel sick or something. But then insurance, there are something they prioritize, and there are other things they do not prioritize. And when you take a closer look, they prioritize things that are normal. When it comes to the bigger things, bigger disease, they do not prioritize on the low-income people. So that leaves people with frustration, like, why do I have to pay for insurance if I'm going to the hospital and then the doctor says, this test is not on your insurance, this medicine is not on your insurance. So I hope with the increase of the budget in insurance, they can cover the low-income people insurances for the medicines and the proper tests, especially the tests and medicine which are higher in price and essential for human being. I would move on to the environment part, whereby they wanted to improve health and environment on the past what?
Budget.
Yes. But then on the current, they've also insisting on the conservation of environment. But then if you take a closer look on the very important places that environment has to be given priorities and be clean every time, they are the places that are the worst. There are smell pollutions, there are waste pollution everywhere. A big example is Kariako. That's a very big place, a very chunk of people, like, that place needs to be clean every time. That place is the source of diseases because of how waste is everywhere. So I do not understand when they say they are conservating environment while the environment
They're
that needs
polluting
conservation.
We're
Yes.
polluting our own
Yes.
environment.
So I am thankful for everything that they are doing for the citizens, but then maybe there are some essential places that they need to prioritize more than others, and I think they should pay attention to that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Yes, next.
Okay, thank you. My name is Festus Simon from IFM, Institute of Finance Management. pursuing Bachelor of Science in Economics and Finance.
Are you happy with the budget?
Part yes, part no.
Why?
Okay. Let me start with tax reform. Let me go directly to 10% in withholding tax in retained earnings.
Yeah.
As we know, a corporate company or any company charges 30% of income as a tax. And the amount remains is retained earnings. So this amount is better in business growth. Clear? So when the government charge tax that amount, 10% after 6 months, 10% after 6 months, 10%. So it will discourage investment direct, because the company may be cuts the dividend to the shareholders. So in economics, we can, in general economics, we can discourage investment. So I'm not well off with this
That
aspect.
you don't like
yes.
that. Uh-huh.
Another aspect is government debt.
Mm-hmm.
Now
It's
it is
increasing.
it's increasing.
We're told that
100
Tanzanians have to pay how much?
1.7
1.7
million each.
million shillings each we have to pay, huh?
Yes.
Ooh,
To say the debt is still sustainable.
it's sustainable.
Yes, it is within the range
But
of...
it's the trend is that it's showing it is still increasing.
Of course, it's increasing,
Yeah.
and it's not like we should not be careful with that
We still,
increase.
it's a wake-up call. We have to be careful.
Yes,
And I
but
like
it is
that
within the
We can
range of debt to GDP, because it is within, it didn't increase more than 55%.
But the threshold,
yes, which
yes.
is the range, the threshold. And also the threshold of 180%, which is within what we call as the, when you sell to the outsiders, it didn't reach more than that. We call it as the foreign sales. It didn't reach to much more than that. It is within the range in 180%, while we have more than 120%. So it is within the range, though we still need to be careful, because you cannot be saying that it is increasing and you take it for granted.
Granted,
no,
yeah.
Of course, we have to take it into that perspective.
But do you think that Tanzania can achieve these economic developments without borrowing?
No.
Can we do it? You think so?
It's difficult.
You think so?
But we can. But we can.
It's not.
it will take a long
Even
time.
countries like America can't do it.
It will take a long time. It will take a long time.
America had a debt to GDP of more than 120%.
Yes.
If you're told you should now pay a payee of 50%, will you be willing?
Can you live without taking a loan? I can't live without taking loans.
Prepares the citizens, because we are the one who always complains about the government's debt.
So how do you self-finance these projects if you are the president right now or the finance minister?
Yeah. How would you finance them?
How would you finance the
Well,
projects?
I would first start to cut ties with the people who always promote us to get debts from them, because they always promote.
Cut ties from international institutions.
No. I won't cut ties to international institutions.
Because they're the
but
World
they-
Bank.
They're the ones who are financing. World Bank, IMF.
Those are those
the-
institutions that
it's
give us the
okay
money.
to get debts from the international institution if necessary. But then if you're getting debts from other countries, that's the big problem.
From which country do you have a debt from?
I do not know.
But you can't say that Tanzania can make it without.
Yes, we can. We can start with baby steps. Everything
There are
starts
projects
small.
that you cannot be able to implement without taking a loan.
yeah.
Sure.
For example, you want to build...
I think the country will come to a standstill.
Yes.
I mean, we won't move.
But then we will start
But-
like Nyerere. At the end of the
but
time, we'll
what-
just cut
what we-
ties with
we-
the new
How much did the
colonialism and
Kigongo
everything.
Busisi bridge cost?
It costs more than 700 billion.
700
700
billion.
US.
Imagine taking that from the budget.
Okay, how are we going to finance this year's election if we cannot do without debts? We didn't take any loan. We're going to
Election is different from building a standard
How
gauge
much is
railway.
that?
Election is every 5 years, so take the 741 billion
Yes.
divided by 5, and you have 5 years to plan for it.
So we can what? We can finance our election. That's 700
And
billion,
41 billion, yes.
right?
Yes.
But then we cannot refund our own debts. How does that work? Why don't we use small money on essential things? Like, we all know it's our right to do election, right? Like to elect the president. Why do we have to spend so much money on election while that's our right? We don't have to. We can spend half of that money paying the debts, and then half of that money to get necessary things for the election.
Cynthia, your number seems like they're more from assumptions than from actual figures.
Because tell me, where is all that money going to?
Cynthia.
Let's look at it this way. This debt is not like it's from yesterday. It's something that has been carried on for years and years and years and years. So we're trying to reduce it, little by little, what we can manage. Eventually, one of these days, we'll probably be, I don't know if it's going to be possible, but we'll reach at a stage where, we won't have such a big debt. Hopefully, one of these days.
Okay.
But
Let me take it this way.
Hmm?
I want to take it this way. Maybe the problem is not borrowing money. The problem is how you use that money. That is a problem. I think last time, CIG report, a lot of money are misallocated, a lot of money. But I don't see any action of the government taken to those who misallocate the fund. That is a problem. The problem is not to borrow money. The problem is how to use in a light way.
Okay,
If we borrow for project, then we can do project.
So we borrow money for business activities. We know that we're going to get back the money that is going to go into those projects. But these infrastructure projects are also very important for us to be able to bring those economic activities to take place. Okay, interesting.
And I'll be the first to say, if Cynthia can come up with a plan of Tanzania advancing without getting any debt, I will vote her for president.
I am telling you guys,
Absolutely, I'll also vote for you.
Everything starts with the leaders.
Yes.
Everything
You work
starts
on
with the
that
leaders.
plan. Work on that
That's
plan.
a long-term
I
plan.
won't work on the plan, but I'm just speaking to all the leaders out there that are currently in the position. They should just, they should use their positions. Yes, they should use their position in a positive way. We all know Africa, we're all greedy. We're all greedy, but then there's just some point. You need to look for what you want.
So
in
the problem
5
is
years,
not the borrowing, it's the expenditure.
Yes,
the
how the money
problem
is
is not
being
the
spent.
borrowing. And as time
Fair
goes
enough.
by, we have that debt, okay? It's growing because of the international exchange rates. It's growing because of the expenditure they are saying they are spending on pension and stuff. So it's the leaders. We need to start with the leaders. I'm telling you, Tanzania without debts, we can do it.
And
Okay.
I wanted to say the same thing. For example, for you to be able to be debt-free, first of all, you have to stop even selling raw materials. You have to produce finished goods. You have to produce finished goods. So you need to have an industrialized economy for you to be doing that.
Is there a country which is debt-free?
No.
Just a minute.
I've seen
Yes.
Mali, they say they are debt-free. But
I
I'm
don't
not
think
quite
so.
too sure
I
if
don't
it's
think
true.
so.
Because you know what?
I don't
I would like to know that.
How we
You
can
might
reach
be
there?
debt-free
I'd like to
from
know.
a certain institution. For example, you might advertise that you're debt-free, but let's just say you're debt-free from IMF
IMF.
debts.
Okay.
There are some other debts that you have. Being a debt-free, it isn't that
It's
simple.
not easy.
It isn't, but it can be.
Yeah.
I would like an example of that debt-free
Okay,
country.
let's move on to our next participant, please. Interesting discussion. I'm sure we'll carry it on later on, yeah?
Okay, my name is Dativa Mugashe, and I'm pursuing a bachelor degree in social work at the Institute of Social Work. Personally, I'm very interested with this session as it aids us to explore ourselves, speaking out our minds about whatever is going on. Reflecting on the budget, I'm very impressed. Congratulations to the leaders. You have to acknowledge people before telling them their faults. They have done their job well. And seeing the budget increasing, it means they aim to invest in a lot of sectors. And the good thing about investing is foreseeing the profits or the benefits. As we can reflect on the health ministry, as they have allocated a certain budget. We believe if people are healthy, they can be strong, even be productive in other sectors. So that's the thing. And this is like a waking up alarm and to notify us if we won't be keen enough to implement whatever has been planned, we are at the risk of having even more debts, as the former speaker have been saying. When they invested money does not give out profit, it's like a deposit, and you're just depositing something and you don't expect anything. And it's better to be a deposit because you can have it. What if it just ends up being like a donation? We don't get anything in return. It's a time of us, or we Tanzanians, starting from the leaders to the upside down to the local people, we should have that spirit of patriotism. We should feel pain, and whatever we are doing, we should be foreseeing the future generation. Mandela once said, if you have a plan for a year, plant rice. For 10 years, plant trees. For 100 years, educate the future generation. So as we plan to make a revolution, is a time to give education to the society by making them aware of whatever we ought to get and whatever we're about to do. I like the former speakers as they were trying to analyze what should be done and what to tell the society, like giving them reasons to why we plan this and giving them reasons to the benefits which they are about to get. You know, when you're being given a clear picture of the journey, like the way you're going, despite passing the rocks, the mountains, the valleys, what you'll be like, at the end of the day, I'll live somewhere. So being in a journey where you don't know where you're going is kind of confusing. So when we aim to make a revolution and having a better future, we should not forget the part of telling people the importance of being the part of that thing, so as they can feel the sense of belongingness and give cooperation. The other thing which was being said, and it clicked in my mind, speaking about social affairs and the health sectors, like within the hospitals and referral hospitals, the thing about exceptional of medical services. And it was designed to favor the children below 5 years, the elders, people living with disabilities, and people with chronic diseases. Now, it has been a problem in implementing this, and I think it's one of the thing which has been like a concern. Like within the implementation, people are still giving complaints that it's not being the plan is not being met as it was designed to do. As citizens, we should be aware that not every child below 5 years old comes from the background which are the same. This was designed to meet the needs of the kids because they are vulnerable, but the family backgrounds differ. So we are not here to accept the medical services to the child whose parents are well off. So obviously when they need those services, parents just should understand that they have the responsibility of funding the services of those kids. But on the other side, the children who come from different socioeconomic status should be identified and receive the medical services as it is planned. And this goes to those people living with disabilities. You know, other people living with disabilities have made their lives and they have good lives. So we can put them on the criteria of being exceptional in the hospital. Same goes to elders and same goes to the people with chronic diseases. So when implementing these policies, it is important for the government to have those programs of making people aware of whatever is being planned and how these services are going to be implemented. So the thing here is about educating the people, giving them reasons to understand the whole process of the journey. And I believe if this budget is going to be implemented as it is intended, with patriotic leaders and citizens, we will have a better future. But if not, we are at the risk of having even more debts. You may correct me. I heard there was a certain news that said about 40% of the employees are not doing their duties as it should be, right? You can correct me there. So if we are having the people who have been employed by the government, and the 40% are not
delivering.
You see, we are at risk of doing that. So before complaining to the government is the part of asking ourselves, what are we delivering to so as to be a win-win situation? Thank you.
Just introduce yourself and give us your feel about this, your take on the budget.
Okay, my name is Msigwa Cosmasi Msigwa, from the Institute of Social Work, main campus, the Race Lab, pursuing a bachelor degree in human resource management. Take a look on Tanzania budget, 50.29 trillion to the current budget or expected budget, which is 56.49 trillion. Can I have a look that we have the allocated budget of 14.95 trillion that will be spending for paying debits. So you can ask yourself that, is the government assured that we can collect a lot of money for paying such a huge amount of money to the maybe to the foreign organization that give us such amount of money for as a debits? And what strategy do Tanzania leaders think about that we can use them to have a collection of revenues? Is it Tanzanians leaders, or is it Tanzanian expertise, or is educated people? We know Tanzania has a lot of resources that we can use them for us to reach there. And as you trigger on the dimensions of budget, you can see that there is an increment from year to year, that the budget is still increasing. And if you see that the budget is still increasing, so you identify that the government has the way that they want to reach. That, maybe in 2030 we want to reach there. So if the government want to reach there, what strategy do they plan to reach there? I think looking for the resources that we have mining and natural resources that we can use to utilize or to generate our own funds instead of having a huge number of debits. As we take a look.
So you think that we don't need to borrow?
We can borrow, but we need to utilize first our own resources. Then, after utilizing our own resources, then we can borrow a little bit. Since we have,
he said that we have a lot of natural resources. You know, we have we have Tanzania, we have the mining sector, we have agriculture, we have land, we have. What is the problem?
The issue is with the formalization in these sectors. These sectors have been contributing to the economy, but many of these sectors, they are not formalized. For example, the mining sector contributes 10% of the GDP. The tourism sector contributes more than 17% of the GDP. The agriculture sector contributes more than 26% of the GDP. We could contribute much more than that. The issue is with formalization. For example, the industry of arts. If you take a look at it, arts and entertainment has been growing a lot at more than 17%. But if you take a look at it, its contribution to the GDP is not that much compared to how the sector has grown. In any time when you want to analyze how a certain sector has been doing, if you take a look at that sector, if it has been growing that much, and then you see at the GDP, it doesn't contribute the same way that it has been growing, then you should come up with the only idea, and you should know that there are sectors that are not formalized. That is the reason why The sector is growing, but its contribution to the GDP is not that enough. The issue comes with formalization.
I wanted to say something. So, it's not like those sectors are not formalized. They are formalized, but then Tanzanians, we like shortcuts. Government formalized those essential sectors, but then we just want to do shortcuts because we don't want to pay tax and stuff. Example, mining. That is formalized because if you want to do mining, you need to have license, you need to pay your license, you need to renew it and stuff and stuff. But then if you look closely, Tanzania has like Tanzanite, a lot of them. We should be the first country in the world market when it comes to Tanzanite. But then who is the first country in world market when it comes to Tanzanite? It is India. And when you go to India, there are no Tanzanite there. Like, if they are, maybe 15%. But Tanzania, we are the country that has more Tanzanite. People take those Tanzanite, they sell them illegally to the Indians. Indians go to the world market and they sell them formally. Because what? They don't want to get licensed. They don't want to pay for the EFD's machine. They don't want the government to tax them.
That is what he was saying.
So
issue of formalization is very, very important.
Yes. So
and of course, it comes. It's a process. Formalization is a process, and it's a two-way traffic. For you, as the government, you have to attract people to be formalized, and those people, they also need to be attracted to be formalized. So it's a two-way traffic. The government has to build a very good environment for these business people to be formalized. Because if I am a business person and I do not pay tax, and you're telling me if I am formalized, then I'll be, the assessment will be much higher, more than my profit. Then I would say, no, I don't want to be formalized. So it's a two-way traffic. The government has to build an environment, and for business people also, they need to be patriotic for them to go out there to be formalized so that this sector will be doing well. But before you formalize, you have to make sure that you tend to empower these sectors. They have to be empowered well for them to be formalized, for them to be paying tax. Because you cannot milk a cow that you not even feed. So you should be doing that first. You should empower them. Then after that, you might be going out there to get what you need. But the thing is, here in our country, there are some of the things that, of course, have to be well taken care of. You cannot be a machinga for more than 10 or 15 years. You have to graduate. There has to be a certain limit of time for you to be a machinga. You've got to graduate.
I like that one, yeah. Okay, we've had some very interesting insights from you. I'm afraid we'll have to end it there for you. We'll come back to our panelists for them to wind up our discussion. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll turn back to our panelists here, and we'll hear your take after this discussion. Keep on watching The Pulse.
Je, unataka kutangaza biashara yako na Capital Television, Capital Radio pamoja na Capital Digital? Karibu tukuwezeshe kuwa karibu na wateja wako kwa kutangaza biashara yako kwa gharama nafuu zaidi. Hii ni maajabu. Hakuna maajabu. Karibu kutangaza biashara yako kwenye TV, radio pamoja na mitandao yetu ya kijamii. Umekuja. Usisubiri upitwe. Wasiliana nasi kwa simu namba 0767777147 au 0684 302-014. Pia unaweza kutembelea tovuti yetu www.itv.co.tz.
Welcome back to The Pulse. So, you've heard participants, very interesting insights there. What do you take from this, as we wind up this program?
From the panel, I can already tell we have future ministers of finance here. We have future ministers of tourism, we have future heads of Aristotle, and I love the spirit, and I love that they're confident enough to give their ideas and express themselves. So it's really wonderful. You guys are the future of this country, so keep it up. I hope that spirit never dies in you. So to answer just a few of the questions, when it comes to formalizing, you said the mining sector is formalized. The mining sector is formalized to an extent, but when you find those local small-scale miners, they're not really localized. Those ones you see on TV where they're going this deep in the holes and then they're digging to get something, they are not in the formal sector. They're in the informal sector. So the formal sector you're speaking of is the big mining companies which come here from abroad. Now, in terms of formalizing sectors, there's also a political aspect to formalizing sectors. So this is not to give an excuse to our leaders, but when you are a leader, there are different considerations to make. You understand? Different considerations to make. Some are mostly are political, but depending on the nature of your country, right? I'll give an example. I'll give just an example of political considerations where leaders have to make. For example, in Tanzania, we have two main religions, Muslims and Christians, right? So if you go to an office where there are 20 people and you only find Christians, or you only find Muslims, there'll be complaints, right? You have to balance, right? So everything's about balance. Political consideration is about balance. When it comes to formalizing the sectors, right? You understand that when you formalize these people, they're going to have to pay taxes, right? There's political backlash to people being formalized. Like you said, if somebody is a machinga, and now you're telling him that now you have to set up shop, and now that you have to pay different taxes and stuff like that. These are things people do not like. People who are in the informal sector do not like to advance to the formal sector. Even if it means that when they go into the formal sector, they'll earn more, but they'll pay tax, but they'll still rather learn less and not pay taxes. So this is an attitude which we have to curtail. So a government might come and say that we're going to formalize this sector by force, even if there'll be backlash. But if there's going to be backlash, there's going to be hindrance towards the process of formalization. So it is a challenge that leaders face to formalize. So it is a slow process, and I understand it's painful from a perspective of you're looking outside looking in, and you said that we want things to go fast, but it's really difficult in terms of when you consider political considerations. But it is being done. It is being done slowly but surely. We're going towards that direction. For example, there's this organization called Tanzania Startup Association. They're working with the government right now to, for the first time, come up with a startup policy for the country, which means it will formalize the startup sector. Understand, eh? So the second part, also formalizing, it requires, for somebody to be formalized, it requires them to have financial history. To have financial history, you have to have a bank account, because that's where business loans come from. A bank will not loan you without financial details. So you might be a machinga, you might be doing a lot of business, but if you don't have the financial records, you cannot be loaned. So without having a bank account, you cannot be formalized. So what can we do? A lot of people have mobile banking right now as an alternative to having a bank account. So now, how do we formalize that people's mobile money accounts can be used in the place of a bank account, where you can get somebody's financial details? Now, when you go to that also now, the first process was, and it has already been done, is to make sure people register with their NIDA accounts. So I'm Thomas Kibwana. My phone lines should read Thomas Kibwana. My mobile account should read Thomas Kibwana. You'd be surprised how many people, when you go to the streets, their mobile numbers are not registered to their names. So they're doing mobile transactions, but when they go to ask for example, loans or something like that, that mobile account is not in your name. So you cannot be formalized. So there's those cultural or habitual challenges that we might overcome. They're slow, but we're getting there. Okay. So right now, you sign up for a mobile number. It must be in your name through NIDA. With that now, we'll get you a financial history through your mobile money account. From that one now, how do we formalize that so that as a businessman, you can get loans from your mobile money account? So it's a slow process. Hopefully we get there.
But you'll get there. Okay. Yes. Very quickly, Ali, and you know, just briefly, for Tanzanians, you know, there, if this budget is approved, are we going to see tightening of belts, very briefly?
Of course, if it's approved, of course we have to do that. Though there are some of the things that I would say that at least they aim at increasing the purchasing power, increasing the number of employment. For example, reducing the registry fee and the license fee for the border borders. That
we're going to be seeing a lot of border borders in Bajajis.
Yes, but the thing is, we'll go back to the same thing. If it's not formalized, it wouldn't be contributing that much to the GDP. It has to be a formalized sector, a well-known sector. They call them transport officers. If you call them transport officers, what about the logistic and transport officers? They would also claim that name. So some of the things they aim at increasing the purchasing power, make it easy for the Tanzanians, for them to be able to purchase. The issue of budgeting, I always say this, if we want to make the budget work, in the end, it should aim at making sure that it reduces the rate of inflation for people to be able to purchase their products, and in the end, for them to remain with what is left for them to save or to invest. We need to make a household economy do well, because here in household budget has to be maintained for people to live in a very good way, for people to be able to afford their necessities. So if the budget is approved, of course, in some of the places we're well, in some of the issues they have to be well taken care of, most especially at the corporate sector. As my brothers have said, that 10% have to be well taken care of, because we need to reinvest. But this budget, I wish this budget touched the household economy. The budget had to touch the household budget for them to be able to do that. But I've seen, as they've said, that there are going to be strong policies to control the rate of inflation, to make it easy for people to purchase, to make it easy for the household to be able to cover for their needs, for them to be able to afford their needs. So I really wish they should control those economic indicators, especially the issue of inflation, because one of the products that tend to contribute a lot to the inflation is the food products. They tend to contribute a lot to the inflation. I've seen some of the...
Yes, once food prices go up, everyone goes crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, even though there are some of the products, if they have increased the tax, those are not the necessity products. Of course, they are food products, but they're not that necessary, because if you do not get an ice cream...
You don't have to have sausages.
Absolutely. If you miss sausages, you wouldn't die. But people are going to... decrease the spending habits or spending pattern would change, because we both know that those products, they are produced locally and people are employed into that sector. They're going to increase prices because we both know when you increase tax, they will also increase prices. And the one who will be getting that burden is the final consumer. So that's how it goes.
Thank you so much for taking part in this discussion. We had our panelists here today. We had Ali Mkimo, economist, and we also had Thomas Kibwana, our analyst. Thank you so much for taking part in the Pulse. And thank you very much, our audience, for a very vibrant participation in the Pulse. Thank you so much. From me, Yvonne Msemembo, it's goodbye from the Pulse.
Watch Capital Television on our social media platform on YouTube, Capital Television Tanzania, Facebook, Capital Television Tanzania, Instagram, Capital TV_TZ, on Mainstream Decoder, Digitech Decoder, channel number 1103. Capital Television, your channel of choice.